Welcome to Yahoo Finance Sports Report, a unique look at the business of sports, brought to you by Yahoo Finance and Yahoo Sports. I'm your host, Joe Pompliano, and I'm here to coach you through the financial game. Today, we've got Yahoo Sports senior college football reporter Ross Dellenger coming on the show to discuss the latest news in college football, and Andrew Perloff, co-host of the Maggie and Perloff Show on the Infinity Sports Network, joining us to talk about the NFL ahead of Week 1. Let's huddle up and get right into it. We are kicking off this week with Pomp's Playbook, where I take a look at some of the biggest headlines in sports that you and your portfolio need to know. First up, Nike officially introduced Caitlin Clark as its newest signature athlete on Monday, with a marketing promo that also revealed her new logo. Clark's logo apparel collection will drop this fall, but fans will have to wait for her signature shoe, which is set to debut in 2026. Clark's status as a signature partner aligns with Nike CEO Elliott Hill's plan to refocus on athletes, as the company works to rebound from a 30% drop in its stock price over the last 5 years. Next up, we somehow have two fashion-related pieces of football news in the same week. On Monday, the NFL signed a multi-year deal with Abercrombie & Fitch, making the clothing brand the league's first official fashion partner. And just one day after his viral engagement to pop star girlfriend Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce launched a new collection with American Eagle through his sports and lifestyle brand True Colors. American Eagle's stock jumped 5% in morning trading after the Kelce partnership announcement on Wednesday. And speaking of partnerships, the US Open's nearly 20-year partnership with Grey Goose Vodka will drive some serious revenue in the next couple of weeks. Since 2006, Grey Goose has made the Honey Deuce cocktail, the signature cocktail of the US Open tournament. The drink combines Grey Goose vodka with lemonade and raspberry liqueur, and is topped with 3 honeydew melon balls. And a whopping 556,782 of these drinks were sold at last year's tournament. So at $23 per drink, the US Open is set to make nearly $13 million off this cocktail this year. And last up, Bill Belichick announced last Sunday that the University of North Carolina football program will be the focus of a new season-long documentary series coming to Hulu this fall. The new series, which will follow the UNC football team in Belichick's first year as head coach, comes after a previous deal for the team to be featured in the offseason edition of HBO's Hard Knocks fell through. And according to The Athletic, HBO decided against the show after Belichick's girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, requested to be a key part of its production. And while Hulu is set to lift back the curtain on Bill Belichick's new football program at North Carolina, Yahoo Sports senior college football reporter Ross Dellenger is here to give us a rundown on everything else happening in college football. Ross, thank you so much for joining the show today. I want to start with Arch Manning. You recently wrote a piece on Yahoo about Arch and just sort of what has happened over the last few years as he preps to become the starter for Texas this year. Tell me a little bit about just like what you learned during that story about Arch the person, but also how prepared he is for this moment.
Yeah, I've actually covered Arch since he was a freshman in high school. Went down to New Orleans, I guess 6 years ago now, and spent some time with his family and folks. So it's he's been the pressure has been on for a while, and it's sort of all built up for this moment, this weekend. You see, he had 2 years as a backup to Quinn Ewers at Texas, despite being this 5-star, like hotly recruited guy. He didn't come in and start immediately, and that was sort of never the plan for him or his family. He wanted to go somewhere to develop. So he had 2 years behind Quinn Ewers. He had 4 years as a high school starter. He started as a freshman in high school down in New Orleans and actually led as a freshman, as a 15-year-old, led all New Orleans metro area high school quarterbacks in touchdown passes. So like he's just been this superstar for so long. And so finally, right, this weekend, we get to sort of see him begin his starting tenure for Texas, and it comes in an incredible matchup, right? Basically 1 versus 2 in the coaches poll at Ohio State, defending national champs, Big Ten versus SEC, big noon kickoff will be there. I mean, it's just like, it's an incredible stage for him to finally sort of get that start. And I think he's ready to go. I think that he sees all of the praise that's heaped upon him. I mean, he's he's thrown 95, I think, college passes. He's thrown 9 touchdowns in college, and he's the Heisman Trophy front runner right now. And so he sees that stuff, and he's just ready, I think, to get going and sort of ready to face adversity. He told a friend of his, who then told me, that Arch was ready to kind of make his first mistake, so that he could show people that he's not perfect.
Yeah. That seems fair. I think a lot of people are expecting him to be perfect, but to your point, this can be a bigger stage. And you mentioned Big Noon Kickoff and all these. I want to talk about that for a second because you've had some information on this week. It feels like there's a lot of rumors and speculation going around on what actually happened with Dave Portnoy, a new addition to Fox's broadcast team, getting banned or not banned from the stadium. What can you tell us actually happened there?
Yeah, well, and this was all announced in mid-July that Dave Portnoy of Barstool would be sort of joining Big Noon Kickoff. There was a reaction from many people, I think, in the Big Ten of sort of surprise, but also they had concerning feelings. Many of them in Columbus, and part of that obviously is Dave Portnoy is a Michigan alum, a Michigan sort of booster involved in Michigan recruiting, and sort of a constant public critic of Michigan's rival Ohio State. And during the sign stealing scandal of 2023 with Michigan and Connor Stallions, he was very much a loud sort of critic of the Big Ten, of the NCAA, and of Ohio State's alleged role in all that. So I think there was some concerns from a lot of people in the Big Ten over Fox's decision, but namely in Columbus. And I think those concerns were expressed to Fox over the last couple weeks. And there was a decision made, whether it was Ohio State's or Fox's. I think there was a decision made that Dave Portnoy would not be on the main stage. I don't know that he was ever supposed to be on the main Big Noon Kickoff stage, but the decision was made that he wouldn't be inside the stadium. So apparently Big Noon Kickoff starts, outside of the stadium each Saturday, and then they move inside in the final segments, and he won't move inside the stadium. Not only that, but according to the Big Ten, he won't be moving inside of any stadium this year with Big Noon Kickoff. We'll see if that actually transpires or it's just at Ohio State. But clearly, there's some friction between Fox's decision with involving Dave Portnoy and sort of the Big Ten Conference and some of its members, namely Ohio State.
Yeah, very confusing, and we'll see how it plays out. But lastly, I just want to get your quick opinion on what's going on with Bill Belichick, UNC, and doing this new series with Hulu. I mean, it was announced earlier with Hard Knocks, got taken off there. Now it's Hulu. What are you hearing about how that deal ended up working out rather than being with Hard Knocks?
Yeah, I'm not so sure on how that all like sort of unfolded. It's funny because like right when we were, I kind of joined you guys a little late because I was in the middle of writing a Bill Belichick story that I'll post at Yahoo later this week. I spent a day or so with them down there. Got to talk to his sons, got to talk to him a little bit, see how the program's operating, got to meet with the chancellor. It's pretty huge investment going on there and Bill Belichick. And I think everybody there is sort of can't wait till the game arrives so that all the off the field sort of drama, like maybe some of the Hulu stuff and obviously the girlfriend stuff and why he was hired in the first place and the athletic director change over there. There's just been a lot of off the field drama there. And so it feels like everybody's ready to kick it off, and they do so against TCU Monday night.
Yeah, as a North Carolina native, I am certainly looking forward to reading your story and watching that game, of course. Ross, thank you so much for joining us, though.
Yeah, no problem.
Now, we have to take a quick break, but coming up, we've got Andrew Perloff, one half of the Maggie and Perloff show on the Infinity Sports Network, stopping by to dish on the biggest headlines leading up to week 1 of the NFL season, including the wild conspiracies and discourse surrounding Cleveland Browns rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders. Welcome back to Yahoo Finance Sports Report. I'm your host, Joe Pompliano. We've made it to the one-on-one, a conversation where I get to break down news and sports with a key player in the industry. This week, we're speaking with Andrew Perloff, co-host of the Maggie and Perloff show on the Infinity Sports Network. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today. We got a lot to talk about, but I want to start with football and specifically the NFL. I've seen a lot of chatter over the last few weeks, and we talked about this when you came on the show a few weeks ago around Shedeur Sanders. Look, he was drafted by the Cleveland Browns. He was their third or fourth quarterback on the roster, depending on when you looked at it, potentially even fifth. And he played well the first preseason game, not as well the last time he was on the field. And there's been a lot of conspiracy theories thrown out there around sort of how the Browns have, quote, mismanaged his prep in the preseason, leaving him out to dry in the last game. Now, I don't necessarily believe some of this stuff, but I'd love to get your opinion on just sort of how you saw the whole situation unfold.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. When you mention Shedeur Sanders' name, you can feel the attention coming back. He is a different player. Reminds me so much, Joe, of Tim Tebow. When Tim Tebow was in the league, he's so popular that there was electricity around him. Now, Shedeur hasn't established himself in the NFL at all, but Tebow really didn't do much in the NFL either. I thought it was ridiculous. The conspiracy theories that the Browns, who drafted him in the fifth round, were at fault for not developing the right way. I think they wanted to develop him, but they realize he is a fifth round pick and they want to go slowly. I mean, the way it's playing out is why I think some teams were afraid to draft him. There's just too much hype for a guy who was not a first round quarterback. And he was good in the first preseason game. He was not good in the third preseason game, but preseason is overhyped anyway. So anytime Shedeur's name comes up, people go crazy. And I think it's really more about Shedeur than what we're actually seeing with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, it was interesting because everyone was talking about his offensive line, right? And how, 4 of the 5
Right.
people got cut the next day or whatever it was. But if you look at what happened, it was really a continuation of what we saw in college, too, where he was dropping back, holding on to the ball way too long. And, I'm a Giants fan, right? So their last preseason game against the Patriots, Tommy DeVito, who ends up getting cut, throws 3 touchdowns with the backup offensive line. All those guys were cut the next day, right? So it's a difficult situation, but it happens and other guys deal with it. I saw you write recently something on Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys too, talking about the new documentary that's out on Netflix, America's Team, The Gambler, and his Cowboys. Now, you wrote about some of the things that you didn't necessarily buy or believe from the documentary. Maybe just walk me through a couple of those and your thesis behind that.
Well, Jerry opens the documentary by saying, I'm a salesman. I can talk people into lending me money. He has a loose relationship with the truth. It's not necessarily that he's lying, but a couple things. He inherited America's Team. The documentary makes it seem like he created America's Team. You have to realize that Roger Staubach and Tony Dorsett and the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders were a big part of this. They spent about 90 seconds on them in the documentary. The other thing is this idea that Jerry just wants to create a soap opera. That's convenient for Jerry when he hasn't won a Super Bowl in 30 years. I think some of that is an excuse for not winning a Super Bowl. So that part I didn't really buy. This is all part of the master plan for Jerry Jones. I don't think so. What I really think, Joe, the salary cap era is what's hurt Jerry. It's even more so than firing Jimmy Johnson. They paid a lot to get those championship teams. 1994, the cap comes in, and you see how poorly they manage the cap nowadays. So I think that is the real enemy of Jerry Jones. And he at the end of the documentary, he brags about paying $375 million for Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. That's not what you brag about in today's NFL. You brag about spending smartly. And Jerry doesn't seem to get that message.
Yeah, I also think that maybe they potentially gave him, and I think you wrote about this piece too, is like too much credit for the creation of the NFL. Anyone that has followed the NFL and sports business in general for a long time knows that Jerry Jones was certainly influential when it comes to TV rights, certainly, but also sponsorships. I think the NFL actually sued him at one point because they had a deal with Coca-Cola or Pepsi or vice versa, and he did the opposite and basically said, you guys can't tell me who my sponsors are going to be. And that created this new business model that they run off of today with local sponsorship. So that was like huge and instrumental, but let's not act like football wasn't a popular sport, like it wasn't becoming more popular. There's other things that have helped as well. Is that sort of your feedback on that whole situation too?
Well, yeah, it was really interesting. Rupert Murdoch called Jerry and said, I want to bring the NFL to Fox. I'm going to make you an offer that the owners can't refuse. So Rupert Murdoch had the vision. And it's funny, Murdoch didn't even grow up a football fan. He had the vision as much as Jerry Jones or more. I think Jerry was the right person in the right place, head of that committee, and he did a great job. Don't want to take anything away from him. But come on, I agree. There were so many forces that were helping the NFL. A lot of it having to do with TV and the sport itself. Jerry takes too much credit for everything because he's a showman. I mean, I totally agree. Hall of Fame, I thought it was a little premature to put him in. Honestly, I'm not sure he belongs in over, say, Robert Kraft, who's also the head of several important committees as well.
Yeah, Robert Kraft seems to be trying to get in too, so we'll see what happens there. But speaking of Jerry Jones, before we move off him, what do you think happens with Micah Parsons? I mean, this has been going on several months now. The Cowboys, the coach and Jerry Jones are acting like he's going to play. He's acting like he's not going to play. Seems to be radio silent. What is your read on this?
Well, I generally believe guys almost always play. There's exceptions like Chris Jones a couple years ago. Now, the thing with Micah, he costs himself over $1 million a game, I believe, if he sits out. I think he plays. I think, just like Dak Prescott, I think they might even reach a deal before the season starts. But the reality is, the game is, as we're taping, a week away. I think he's going to be there. I think he'll show up at practice on Friday. We'll see. I could be proven wrong immediately. I think the Cowboys are not relenting at all, and I'm not sure Micah Parsons has a choice. Now, will he be full strength if he does play? I doubt it. I don't think he'll play more than, say, 20 plays, 25 plays in the game, but I expect him to play because let's face it, that's how the NFL usually works.
Yeah, he's going to be giving up a lot of money, which is ultimately why he's sitting out in the first place. So it doesn't really make a ton of sense, but we'll see. To your point, the Cowboys have gotten some deals done at the last minute before, so maybe this is another one of those. Speaking of holdouts or hold-ins, Trey Hendrickson with the Bengals, they sort of found like a weird sort of in the middle agreement with him where they just gave him a raise for 1 year rather than extending him. What was your thought process on that? Like after all of this time, just to do that rather than either trading him or giving him a longer-term extension?
No, that's exactly what I said on my show. I'm like, 2 years and you came up with this, a 1 year bump, and there's no guarantee. Now, I know the Bengals don't like to guarantee a second year, but he's going to hit the free agent market. They might get a third round pick for all of this. And listen, he's over 30, but he's not that old. What does the Bengals defense have? We're talking about the Cowboys mismanaging the cap. The Bengals did invest a lot in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and you love that if you're Joe Burrow. But look at the defense. A couple of years ago, they let Jesse Bates go, a safety who would be huge. They just make mistake after mistake, and the way they've handled this, it's the team. I don't blame Trey Hendrickson. They have messed this up, and I don't think they're going to build a champion around Joe Burrow, and that's frustrating because he's a good enough quarterback to win a championship.
Yeah, it's sort of difficult to place all the blame on the defense too. When Joe Burrow and his guys get paid all this money, the defense lets go of all these guys, and then he's blaming about the defense sucks. It's kind of like, okay, well, you can only pick and choose one side of the ball, I guess. But that's how it works in today's modern NFL with the salary cap. Let's move on to college football, though. We'll call it week one. Starts this weekend, the big weekend. We got Texas, Ohio State, a bunch of other big games too, Clemson, LSU. What are you watching just the first few weeks of college football to see who's serious and sort of who the pretenders are?
Well, I mean, most of the feedback we get is people want to see Arch Manning at Texas. So they'll get that opening day. There's a lot of buzz around Clemson. On our radio show, we have some markets near there. They return 80% of their starters, which is the highest in FBS. Feels like Cade Klubnik could be possibly a number one overall type quarterback. This could be the year. And Dabo Swinney, it's been a long time since they've been real contenders. I know they made the playoff last year. So I feel like there's a lot of buzz around Clemson. I'm also really curious about the Notre Dame Miami game. Feels like Notre Dame just gets gifted with their schedule into the playoff and their brand. But Miami, with Carson Beck coming over, who's much maligned for a lot of reasons, they're a team that a lot of experts really like, guys who really know the game are like, watch out for Miami. So that's a game I'm watching and a team I'm watching over the first month.
Yeah, Miami seems like a really interesting one because to your point, I sort of almost wrote them off a little bit, just kind of how the season ended with Carson Beck at Georgia and Cam Ward obviously leaving. But like you said, everyone that I'm hearing is like, it's going really well in Miami right now. They look good. Carson Beck looks good. We'll see how that plays out. But what are your expectations for Arch Manning this year?
I think he's going to be good. Now, listen, a lot of people said he's only started 2 games. Why are we making him the Heisman favorite? But first of all, we know about the last name. He's in the right offense. Steve Sarkisian can do a lot with even a moderately talented quarterback. I think we saw enough of Arch to know that he has talent and he has his legs as a backup. I'd be shocked if the bottom fell out. We've seen that before where big recruits have not worked out at all. I mean, it's happened time and time again. I think we've seen enough from Arch to know that's not going to happen. Texas is so good. They're going to be able to run the ball, put him in good positions. They have a good line. And I think a guy like that, he'll be able to run if he has to. I have high expectations. I kind of think he'll stay for 2 years, but I think this team's going to be elite. I'm not guaranteeing a title, but I'd be surprised if Texas wasn't in the playoff, and I'd be shocked if Arch Manning didn't have a good season.
Yeah, same here. Speaking of going to the NFL draft or not, do you think they're basically just going to wait till the end of the season and see who is, say he has a good year, right? Obviously, this goes out the window if he has a bad year and he's not in contention for that top, 2 or 3 picks. But you think they just wait and see sort of who has those picks, determine if it's a good organization, then decide if he goes from there?
It could be, his uncles both stayed at college for 4 years. I've been convinced will stay for 4 years. Why would he wait there for 2 years just to play one more year? Here's the thing: if they don't win the title, I think here's my prediction: if they don't win the title, he'll come back for unfinished business. I think he wants to win in Texas. I think he loves being in college, and who wouldn't love being in Austin? I'd expect him. I would bet 2 years, unless they win the title, then definitely one.
Yeah, I just liked when they asked him about a media day. He said, I don't know where he got that from. I didn't tell him that, but it seemed like a little bit of a joke and jest. But this was awesome, Andrew. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Anytime, Joe. Thank you.
The clock is winding down here, but we have just enough time for some final buzz. Last weekend, Kevin O'Leary made his next big investment. And no, it wasn't on Shark Tank, and it doesn't include a royalty deal. The Canadian entrepreneur, known as Mr. Wonderful, revealed on CNBC's Squawk Box this past Monday that he was part of a trio that paid a record $12.9 million for the Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant 2007-08 Upper Deck Exquisite Collection Dual Logerman Autograph Patch card this past weekend through Heritage Auctions. O'Leary bought the card with his business partner Paul Warshaw and Matt Allen, who is known in the collectible space on social media as Shine150. The special Jordan Bryant card heavily beat the previous record for the most expensive trading card sold at auction, which was a 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle 311 card that sold for $12.6 million in August 2022. O'Leary, Warshaw, and Allen's nearly $13 million purchase of the Jordan Bryant card demonstrates the continued rise of collectibles as an asset class, which has shown no signs of slowing down since its boom after the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Additionally, O'Leary told CNBC that the Jordan Bryant card will be part of an index that he'll grow along with his partners, that they have seen trading cards no different than their Bitcoin holdings, Ethereum holdings, and gold holdings. However, beyond the massive price for the card, buying it didn't come easy. O'Leary said on Squawk Box that he, Warsaw, and Allen met on a 3 a.m. Zoom call to finalize the purchase of the card. And don't expect to see the Jordan Bryant card back up for auction anytime soon. O'Leary told CNBC that he doesn't expect the card to go back on the market during his lifetime. So if you have some extra cash laying around for a sports card that you want to buy, maybe try giving Mr. Wonderful a call. We're all out of time, so it's officially game over for this week. Thank you so much to Ross, Andrew, and all of you for joining us. Please make sure to scan the QR code below to follow Yahoo Finance Podcast for more videos and expert insights, and catch us every Friday wherever you get your podcasts. I'm your host, Joe Pompliano. See you next time.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.